Hey everyone, it's Julia,
And JC.
and we are the Missing Manual, and we're going to bring you a little bite-sized mantra. One of the things that I've always loved and appreciated about just about every interaction I've had with JCK is she has a mantra that I've since adopted. So, JCK, I'm going to let you, I'll give the drum roll. What's your
Okay.
mantra?
It's pretty easy, guys. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Okay, let's repeat that. If
That's
it's
it.
not a hell
Hell yes.
yes,
It's a
hell no.
yeah. And this happens in a lot of different areas. It happens in choices about work, it happens in choices about relationships, it happens about choices of clothing, right? I've adopted this when I go shopping actually because shopping is hard for me and like finding outfits and I've learned that like if it's not a hell yes, I'm likely not going to wear it. And so I try to make sure. It's amazing how like one line, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, can shape so many different things in your life. But I think it also helps us too when it comes to skills at work too. Like what are the things that really light me up and get me really excited versus what are the things that don't? I don't know, what am I missing, Julia?
I started thinking about that a lot more in some of my day to day. And I can think of lots of things in life that aren't necessarily a hell yes, but I might just need to GSD. I like to say get shit done. And sometimes
Absolutely.
you are in that GSD mode at work and you forget that you have the opportunity to say hell yes or hell no about something. But you always want to try and bring that hell yes energy, even if it's something that you're not maybe as passionate about, especially when it comes to work. There are going to be projects that you work on or things that you have to do that maybe you're not so excited about. And I think it's important to step back and try and figure out how you can bring a hell yes energy to something, even if it's not something that you're so passionate about. What can you do to reframe what you're doing and turn something from maybe a into a hell yes? And then there's
Mm-hmm.
certain decisions I think for sure you can say, oh no. So it's not necessarily only hell yes or hell no to me, but I really appreciate that framework. And when we were coming together to talk about throwing our hats in the ring to do a podcast, we both said we need to make sure it's a
Hell yes
hell
decision for both
yes.
of us. Yeah. And it definitely was. And I think also, like, when I think about the world of work, right? Like, obviously, not everything that you do in a day to day is going to be a hell yes, but it's also a design challenge, right? I was talking to one of our sales guys the other days, and I hope he doesn't mind me talking about this, but he doesn't necessarily like cold calling. And to be honest, like back in my like with I had to put on my recruiter hat days, right? Like you don't get a dial for dollars, right? It's a good time. Life's changed so much. But one of the things I challenged him on is like, I know that you don't love this, but how can you reward yourself when you're done with that block? So if we block out our time and you have to do X amount of calls, right? What are you going to do at the end of that block to celebrate the fact that you just got it done? And that's a way that you can take that piece that's a little bit more of a hell no and at least incentivize yourself to get a little closer to that yes. And so the interesting thing for my rockstar sales guy is he actually really loves data and analysis. And so like he's like, well, could I just do like my basic just plugging chugging. I'm like, that's what you want to do is your way to reward yourself. I was like, that's amazing. That's not normally the case. Usually it's opposite for a lot of people, but regardless, right? The thing that we have to remember is that good is subjective to the individual human. So what's good for me might not necessarily be what's good for Julia, right? But part of what we're doing on these journeys of life is we're helping to better understand what is good for us. And so that hell yes, that helps us be able to identify where those really, really, really big good things that we want to walk towards or drive towards or design around. I get excited on this topic. But yeah, there
So
we
I hope
go. That's hell yes.
everyone I hope everyone says hell yes to joining us on this journey with the Missing Manual. We are going to cover a wide variety of topics, and they're the topics that you don't necessarily get excited about when you're at a conference. I
Or
love talking
see.
about those topics, whether it be your
Often see when you're at a conference. I mean, outside of like the session that you did at breakfast on budgeting with the money gun that like shot out like most of the time we don't talk about some of these pieces, which is like really oriented around the how do you get work done. It's not conceptual, but really like what are the skills that you need in order to, as a leader or as a doer, move work like across the finish line. And I
It's
think
not always the
that's
bright and
honestly one of the
shiny
reasons that,
objects.
yes, right? Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. But that was one of the reasons behind this podcast, to be honest, is we saw there was a gap in the market. Nobody really teaches people how to do this, and we just rely on lived experiences to teach people kind of the how. And in this day and age, that seems like a gap. And Julie and I kept looking at each other like, do you see this? Do I? We're like, you're seeing this too, right? Like there's this huge content gap. And eventually it became, okay, yeah, there's this huge content gap. What are we going to do about it? Because I feel like we need to maybe put on our podcast hats and figure this out ourselves. And so we are not great at podcasting yet, but we're choosing to begin. And we appreciate your grace as we go on this hell yes journey with one another.
Yeah, if like 6 months to a year ago I hit record on all of our conversations, we would have had a lot of really great content. So we're
But
doing it now.
we weren't at a hell yes for either of us yet, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so, and the journey matters. And so it is because of that journey that we're here today. And we've been able to isolate some of those situations. And honestly, we've got like a list of topics that's so long.
A big list.
It's
Yes.
such a
But we
big
also
list.
want to hear what you want to talk about.
Yes, because it's really, really important. I mean, this is one of the things I'm sure we'll cover on one of those topics, but you don't want to assume that your lens is always right either. And so being able to ask those sharp questions and seek to understand what's important to other people, right? So we want this to be talk with and talk at. And so if there's a topic that you want us to tackle as we continue on this journey, we'd love to hear from you. So reach out to us. We're on LinkedIn, and we're just so excited to have you here today.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
Until next time.
Bye.